Merry Christmas! The madness tips off today. What's it going to take for the Tar Heels to get to the promised land of Phoenix?
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, March 21st, 2024, the first big day of the NCAA Tournament. It's time to get after it. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, joined by our guy, Coach Pat Kilby, and you've joined us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch, and a special shout out to all you everydayers out there. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Do you ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Well, take the Nissan Rogue or Pathfinder or Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. Pack, I know a lot of people were excited for this to be the show that everyone had been waiting for. You, Coach Bill Robinson, and me, the lone non-coach of the three of us, hanging out, but unfortunately, very last minute, Coach Rob had a family emergency he had to take care of, and it seems like everything's okay, but he just needed to go do that. So unfortunately, it's just the two of us. So thoughts and prayers for his family. And Pack and I are both on our family spring break right now. Can hear the fun and laughter of his family in the background. That's awesome. You love to hear it. So here's what's happening today. It is game day, North Carolina versus Wagner, Charlotte, North Carolina, Spectrum Center on CBS around 2:45 Eastern, basically 30 minutes after Mississippi State and Michigan State conclude their game. FanDuel has the game Carolina by 24.5 points. Now, I give you that right off the top because we're not diving into previewing the game in full today. Did that on Wednesday's show because I wasn't sure if everyone would be able to listen or watch before the game on Thursday. So wanted to make sure you got that preview. What we will be doing today is more of a big picture about the NCAA tournament, some things that Coach Pack and I are looking for and expecting to see. That said, Pack, let's dive right into this. And we've just got kind of a couple questions and talking points to utilize today. So number one, we know that Armando Bacot and RJ Davis were both part of that run all the way to the national championship game 2 years ago. My question to start off today is how important is that experience for this environment?
Well, I think it's massive because, not only have they been there and done that, but these other guys that they're having to bring along, Elliot Cadeau, Harrison, hasn't experienced this. Cormac has played in the NCAA tournament, but he hasn't experienced it to this level as a one seed and kind of that target on your back type thing. And I guess, to be fair, RJ and Armando haven't experienced it as a one seed either, but they've made a deep tournament run. And that's crucial right now because they understand the focus and how, it's one game at a time. And when that game is over, we're immediately on to the next one. It's a mentality and it's a focus. And, I thought the ACC tournament was a great precursor. It was a lot that could be learned from that. And I think maybe to an extent, some of our youth showed after playing that third game against NC State. And so hopefully that was a great learning experience. And then Armando and RJ's experience will be crucial as we go down the stretch here.
Yeah, I completely agree with you because it's not, I think when a lot of people think about the lack of experience, their mind immediately goes to Elliot Cadeau and Zayden High. But it's much bigger than that. It's the vast majority of this team, including Seth Trimble and Jalen Washington, who didn't get to do it last year, And so it really is chiefly just Armando and RJ, and they've got to lead the team both by example and with their voices to help Carolina navigate this. Because as you said, particularly when it's the first game of the weekend, like this game today against Wagner, and if Carolina's fortunate enough to make it to the Sweet 16 next Thursday, those games in particular, it's win and immediately turn your attention. In Carolina's case, it's nice because the Mississippi State, Michigan State game, as I said, is before Carolina. So they can get immediately on prep because they already know which of those two teams it's going to be, which I guess I should say, there will have been one of the coaching staff assigned to all three teams, to Wagner, to Michigan State, and to Mississippi State. So there's already been some prep from the coaching side, but there's that, and so quick turnaround. So, Pac, I love that point too about these guys can help you remember, get it figured out, and then immediately get your brain ready for that next opponent. Pac, how will it help them, that experience, like manage the emotion? What do you expect out of that?
Well, I mean, as you know, there's a lot of ups and downs in a game, and especially with your guard play. So RJ will be critical here, but they have to stay flat. They can't ride with the emotions of the game. It can't be too high. It can't be too low. And RJ, I think he typically does a great job of that, but he's really going to have to come alongside Elliot. This is obviously going to be his first NCAA tournament. It's do or die. Everybody's season's on the line. You're getting everybody's best shot, as if Carolina doesn't already get that anyway. So, it's just got to be locked in. It's one possession at a time, one play at a time, one TV timeout at a time. So you've just got to take the game in strides, win each 4-minute quarter, never get too far ahead of yourself, never get too down, just possession by possession. And I think RJ and Armando will help bring that mentality.
I love it. Good word. Okay. Now, my next question is this. I want us each to name one thing that North Carolina needs to do to make it to the Final Four. And I could have said make it to the national championship game or make it to the Sweet, whatever the ending point is inconsequential. The bigger part of this question is, what is one thing that Carolina has to do to keep advancing in this tournament?
Well, the one thing for me is they've got to have great guard play. And I know I just touched on it. And I know that's not one like specific stat, but just to me, guard play wins in March. And Elliot and Seth and RJ, they've got to be solid in all aspects, in particular, valuing the basketball. Limit the turnovers from our backcourt, and I think we're going to have a chance to be playing in that Final Four.
I love the point, Pac, about the turnovers there that you just made, because Carolina is still under 15% on turnover rate for the year. In fact, it's down below 14.5%. It's at 14.4 right now. They're 33rd nationally, and that bodes so well for what they can do as they walk their way through this tournament. And so I'm excited to see their ability to continue to take care of the ball well. And I think that speaks so highly, not just of RJ, but also of Elliot, to be able to do that as a freshman. I mean, you think about how many freshman point guards are so turnover prone, and really kudos to both of these guys for having over their assist to turnover ratio being over 2, Pac. That's been really, really impressive to me. For my one thing that Carolina needs to do, and as you said, there's a whole multitude of things we could name, but the one thing that I'm really looking for at the big picture level throughout this tournament is to continue to be the aggressors. That is when Carolina has been at their absolute best this year, is when they're the team that comes out and punches the other team in the mouth. I think of it like in the Duke games. Both of those games, Carolina just was on everything, got out and went quickly. This team is not the 2009 team where it's okay if you weren't as aggressive. It's okay if you were just using your natural talent, because they were so insanely talented. I think we've made this comparison before, but this team is more like the 2017 team where everything has to be clicking and going in tandem. And I think a lot of it starts by Carolina being so locked in to being aggressive at every step of the way. So, Pac, we got more conversations to have. My next question, what was missing on Saturday against NC State? And can the Tar Heels find that blue blood with the blue-collar mentality to run all the way through 6 games in March? We'll have that question in just a second. Right after I tell you this episode's brought to you by Nissan. This week's March Madness bracket highlight is indeed brought to you by our friends with Nissan. Each week we're picking one team that really stands out and a team that's pushed it further than the rest, just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs. These guys were able to take it to the next level. The Yukon Huskies, they can only be described as an armada. This top-seeded team is as hardcore as it gets out there, so it's no wonder they've landed the top overall seed for this NCAA tournament. They're one of the favorites to win it all, despite 4 of the 6 Power 6 conference champions standing in their way in the East region. So, take the Nissan Rogue or Pathfinder or this Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets that are bound to happen to all of us today, because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tournament. Whether you're betting on a big upset or betting on a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. How about this? Right now, North Carolina is favored over Wagner today. Again, I said it earlier, by 24.5 points. Can they cover that big, massive spread? We'll find out, and maybe you want to get in on that action. If you do, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. I talked about it earlier this week on the show, but I loved last Friday night in the ACC semifinals. Carolina was really working to get back against Pittsburgh, who had gotten the Tar Heels down by 9. And as they were in the process of doing so, Jay Bilas commented on the broadcast that Carolina, he called them an elite program with a blue-collar mentality. It might have actually been the Florida State game. I can't remember which, but it was one of those 2 games. I've kind of crafted it a little differently to make it a little more poetic. I've been saying that Carolina is a blue blood program with a blue-collar mentality. Pack, I thought that in the ACC championship game against NC State, we didn't see enough of that blue-collar mentality. What for you was missing on Saturday in that game?
Well, man, that's a tough question, because I feel like there was a lot that was missing, but it also, like, when I was watching that game, I just felt like I kept chalking it up to, man, this is just not our night, because of the way NC State was playing. I mean, they were playing, in a sense, out of their mind. And but I did feel like Carolina was lethargic. It was almost like, hey, we've already beat these guys twice. We're Carolina. We're going to show up here. We're going to win the ACC tournament. This is no big deal. This is just kind of what we do. It was real just lethargic, I guess, is the best way to describe it. I didn't feel like we were locked in. In that Florida State game that you mentioned a minute ago there, every loose ball was ours. It was like, it wasn't 50-50. It was like 80-20, or, for a period there, it was like 100-0. And I think that was when Jay Bilas was talking about the blue blood program with blue collar mentality.
Yep. And,
we just didn't have that for whatever reason Saturday. I don't know if it was the inexperience of some of our guys playing in, back-to-back games in a championship type atmosphere with, postseason ramifications on the line. There's a lot that, could have played into those factors, but, really, I just thought we didn't have the edge. And, when you get to March Madness, you better have it. You can't afford not to have it, because the other team's going to have it. Their season's on the line.
That's right.
And so we've got to bring that 6 games in a row. And I feel good. I feel that we will. There's been a multitude of times this season that we've gone on win streaks of 6 or more games.
Twice.
And so, yeah. And so we know that we can do it. That's not a doubt in my mind anyways. I think we can do it. We've just got to make sure we bring it. Can't take anything for granted. Even today against the 16th seed, cannot take it for granted.
And I think that becomes the question is, whether it was NC State's desperation and Carolina's inability to match that same level of desperation, whether Carolina didn't have that same edge on Saturday night, that's gone and done and behind us now. And all that matters now is, can the Tar Heels bring that edge that they've played with when they're at their very best this year? Can they bring that for 6 more games now? And the thing is, you got to bring it 1 game at a time, and you got to find a way to get yourself to that level literally every time you step on the court. Because, as you said, win or go home. So today, We've seen it happen twice in the past 5 tournaments. If the North Carolina Tar Heels don't have that edge against Wagner, they legitimately could be going home and the season could be done and we'll never see Armando Bacot in a North Carolina jersey again. That's the reality of this moment. So, Pack, I'm with you. I do think that the Tar Heels can absolutely sustain that edge for the next 3 weeks. I find that to be a possibility. I think there's a couple things that go into it. I think it's the finality for not only Armando, but for Cormac Ryan, for Paxton Wojcik. These guys are not going to allow their teammates to not be locked in and dialed in with the edge that they need to play with. At the same time, Pack, I've often seen teams get so worked up on having that edge that they go like too far and then they're pressing and pushing. So how, like, put on your coach hat in this question for me. How can Carolina have that edge and understand the gravity of the situation without letting it be too heavy on them and causing them to kind of be debilitated? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
No, absolutely. And, for us, a big thing that we talk about with our guys is having an edge is literally the art of being prepared to play. And to me, that perfectly defines edge. Edge is like, it's not seeking a fight or seeking to go in there and brutalize people. I mean, yes, you want to play physical. Yes, you want to play with emotion and passion. But what you're trying to do is do your job and do it really well. And if you're prepared to do that, then you're going to have that edge. You're going to have that confidence. You're going to have that locked in focus, ready to roll. And so that's got to be the mentality with our guys. It's got to be, Armando's got to be, hey, I'm going to run the floor straight to the rim. I'm going to post up hard. I'm going to command the ball. I'm going to finish around the rim. I'm going to hit free throws. That's my job. I'm going to do it. If you do that, then you're playing with an edge. And so that's got to be the big message for these guys is one game at a time. You show up, you do your job really well, and you're going to put yourself in a position to advance to the next time you get to go 1-0. So.
That's right. And I love that both of the two key transfers, the two main transfers, Cormac and Harrison, I feel like they are the godfathers of that edge for this team in terms of attitude with it, at least. And then that rubs off on everyone else. I love that Harrison's just a kind of happy-go-lucky guy. But anytime there's something that happens on the court, he is the first one there to his teammate every single time. Those kind of things are so critical. Another part of this edge for me, I mentioned that this team is more 2017 than 2009. If I can, first off, do you agree with that comparison that I've made?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. So assuming that we all agree on that, that means the margin for error for the Tar Heels is not as big as that 09 team would have had. So that means that's another reason this edge is so critical, because it makes up for maybe a slight not having as much offense, not being as elite offensively as that 09 team was. Not that this is a bad offensive team. This is a great offensive team, but they are not tip top of the sport elite like some other teams are. And so I think that's part of it too, is that edge allows Carolina to make up for some of that margin. So we'll have to watch that today and hopefully as the Tar Heels move on. Now, Pack, somebody that's part of this team that I love the edge they play with, and in fact has set the tone some recently for that edge, is Mr. Elliot Cadeau. We know how important guard play is in March. We've already talked about it. So we have a massive question to answer. Is Elliot Cadeau, the lone freshman starter on this team, ready for the stage of March Madness? Right after I tell you, this episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV, which is your destination from sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Amazon Fire TV stick that you can plug right on into your existing TV to provide access to millions of movies and TV shows. Whether it's March Madness or the opening weekend for Major League Baseball, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. I have Amazon Fire Sticks on literally every TV in my house. I love the interface. I love how simple it is. And I love the user experience and layout of it. The remote is super handy as well. Look at this. If you're watching on YouTube, I just got one of my Fire Stick remotes right here. It's got these little buttons that can take me right to Prime or Netflix or Peacock or whatever. It's so great. So Also, Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from all your favorite sports brands, all for free. And that includes us here at the Locked On Network. How cool is that? Not to mention great news and entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos as well. So check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't done so yet, you need to, trust me on that. To learn more, visit amazon.com/lockedonfiretv. All right, Pack, we got just a couple more questions to unpack here and make our final four picks known to the world. We'll do all that, but I want to start by talking about both of the starting guards. Let's start with Elliot, and just very simply, Pack Kilby, is Elliot Cadeau ready for this stage?
I think he is. When you break it down, I mean, this is a big stage. There's a lot of ramifications, but at the end of the day, it is basketball, and he's played a lot of it, and he's got a lot of help around him. Like we've mentioned, he's got experienced help around him. He's got a coach that is a guards coach. He understands that position. He's prepared him for this, and Elliot's just playing really good right now, and I like how he's developed himself into the offense as a scoring threat and his ability to get to the rim and play off the ball, especially when they're
not only
using.
Get there, if I might interrupt, not only get there, but finish. I feel like he's been finishing really well lately. Anyway, keep going. I'm sorry.
No, you're right, and he's got a great layup package. He's a great finisher around the rim. He's great at creating for others. We already knew that, but I just like the way he seems to be comfortable. And we always tell our players, when the postseason hits, you're not a freshman anymore. You're a sophomore, and you've played your freshman year. You're grown up now. You're going to play like a sophomore, and I expect Elliot to do that. I really do. I think he's ready for it, and I honestly like RJ beside him, and being able to. I don't know if mentor is the right word, but just pick him up and pull him alongside whenever he needs it. But I feel good about Elliot going into the tournament.
Yeah, I think that's a good word, man. And you talk about RJ there. That's the beauty of Coach Davis liking to play with two guards together, is in those moments where Elliot, is struggling a little bit or having a moment. Oh, hey, here's RJ Davis, a point guard who has played in a national championship game, right? As the ball dominant guard, or as, the playmaking guard. And so it's like, what a comfort to have that, knowing if Elliot does get into some of those more freshman moments, which across the course of 6 games, I wouldn't be surprised to see happen, Pack, a time or two, if Carolina can play multiple games in this tournament. And so we'll have to watch and see, but it's nice to have that as a backup. And by the way, kind of lost in the translation of that NC State game, Elliot Cadeau had 8 assists and just 1 turnover in that game, Pack. So I know as a team, it wasn't a great night, but 8 assists and just 1 turnover for Elliot, which RJ also had a great night, 5 assists and just 1 turnover himself. So 13-2 combined for the guards, and you'll absolutely take that. So yes, I think that Elliot's progression has been great. It's nice that he's got not only coaching mentorship, but teammate mentorship right alongside him on the court. And I think he'll be ready to go. So, Pack, here's my other question. This is something I talked about earlier this week, and I want to get your take on it as well. North Carolina obviously wants to focus their offense on their best player. That's the ACC Player of the Year, and now multiple platform first-team All-American, RJ Davis. How can the North Carolina offense be RJ-centric, meaning focused around him, without being RJ-reliant? I think for the most part this season, we've seen Carolina do a good job of allowing RJ to be the focus of the offense, but not sitting around watching him play. I thought that happened a couple times against NC State on Saturday night. So how, from your viewpoint, can Carolina be RJ-centric without being RJ-reliant?
Well, I like to go back to the Duke game and the most recent one. And something that really stood out to me was Jay Billis kept clamoring for Carolina to get Armando the ball.
Yes.
And, to me, that is what makes RJ special, is whenever we can establish a post presence, now you've got different things you've got to adjust to and that you've got to prep for. And when they have to prepare for that, then that's going to free RJ up some. And RJ's got to do a good job, and he typically does. So this isn't necessarily me critiquing him, but if he could just, continue to do a good job of understanding the type of pressure and the amount of defense that he attracts when he has the ball in his hand, or even sometimes when he doesn't, just like in his usage as a off-ball screener and things of that nature. Just what he can create for others is what I'm getting at. If he understands that well, and we can free up a shot or two for Cormac or Harrison, and we can get some post touches to Armando, then to me, we're still using RJ. We're using the way that they're guarding them as an asset for us.
That's right.
But we're also causing them to adjust to other things, which is going to free RJ up. And I think we've just got to do a better job of that. We didn't do that quite as much against NC State. And it just did not look like we were in sync like I hoped we would offensively. Yeah. But this team has proven they can bounce back from that. And Hubert does a great job with our offense, the way he designs it, the sets that he calls. And so I don't have a bunch of doubt. I think that was more of it just wasn't our night type of thing. And these guys are going to show up ready to roll. And hopefully we won't be too reliant on RJ to just go get a bucket, taking tough shots, that we can play, through each other and with each other.
Yeah, that's a good word, man. Yes, absolutely. Okay, Pack. It's March Madness. It's the NCAA tournament. Let's share our final four picks and our national champion pick, and then we'll get out of here and go get ready to enjoy some March Madness basketball. Give me your final four picks.
All right. Give me UConn, Marquette, Tennessee, and the Tar Heels.
Okay, so we got 2 1s on the left side of the bracket, 2 2s on the right side of the bracket.
Yep.
Okay, I love it. Let me give mine, and then we can keep going from there. I actually went with Iowa State over UConn coming out of the East. In the West, I as well have the Tar Heels. I really in no sort of homer way, I legitimately think they will come out of that region. Up in the top right, I do have Houston coming out. I'm just a little concerned how healthy Tyler Kolek's going to be. If he's healthy, though, I'm right with you. That could be a great call. And then I also have Tennessee coming out of the Midwest region, knocking off Purdue in the Elite Eight. So, Pack, who do you have winning the 2 semifinals, and who's your national champion?
Well, I've got Carolina over UConn, and then I've got Marquette over Tennessee, and then I've got Carolina beating Marquette in the national championship game. 76-71.
Ooh, nice. So, nice. That would be great to get some revenge against UConn in the national semifinals. By the way, would love to see it. So I have Carolina beating Iowa State. I have Houston beating Tennessee. And then I actually chose Houston to beat North Carolina. I think if it was Marquette, I would go with the Tar Heels as well. But I think that Houston's dogged guards would cause some trouble for both RJ and Elliot and just be too much and overwhelm them. But I would rather you be right than me be right. So let's just say the Pat Kilby bracket is the way to go. All right, my man, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for taking time away from your family while you're on spring break to come hang out with us. And I know a lot of folks have been thinking of praying for your brother Spencer. And so I know that you are down there with him. And so folks, if you're thinking about it right now, if you would say up a prayer for the Kilby family. Hey, if you haven't joined the Locked On Tar Heels March Madness bracket yet, you got to do it. You got to do it. It's so fun. The link for that is in the show notes. If you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community, man, you're missing out all the more. It's a great community of Tar Heels. The link for that's in the show notes as well. Would love for you to subscribe to the show, video and audio. Super easy to do. Make sure you hit that bell notification on YouTube because that'll let you know when I go live after the game later on this afternoon. Y'all, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Can't wait to talk to you after the game and hopefully after a win today. Let's not be that third number one ever to lose to a 16. But until then, peace.